Hello, choose recovery. I am a grateful Christian who is powerless over addiction to alcohol and drugs. My name is Kip, and tonight I choose recovery. Okay, so I am not going to be a professional hula hooper, but I wanted to start us off with a reminder about the series that we've been in called Change Me, the things that we can change. Rochelle kicked us off in this series with a hula hoop contest. And it was really good. If you missed it, you should go back online and watch it. It was really fun to watch, but it was for a reason. We've been talking about the things we can change. So there's an old saying around recovery that says you only have to change one thing, everything. Well, and then we heard about a seeming paradox from the Serenity Prayer. In fact, let's have a moment of silence, followed by the short version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. So that accepting the things I cannot change. Wait, if I have to change everything, but there are things I can't change, how does that work? Well, that's where the hula hoop comes in. That's the paradox. We can only change what's in our hula hoop. Rochelle made some great points on this. She was planting seeds, telling us that we need to, keep working on what is yours and let go of what isn't. And that staying in my hula hoop means things such as accepting God's limits for who I am, where I end, and where another person starts. I'm doing what God has called me to do inside my hula hoop and not meddling in someone else's hula hoop. It gets way too crowded if you try and do that. So we are responsible for what is in our hula hoop. So these are all great seeds. And she asked the question of how can I change the way I communicate? And she said, practicing the pause. And she gave this acronym for that, which I had never seen this one before, so it was so good, I put it up have them put it up on the screen again. Preventing another ugly situation or event. Oh, I love that one. Rochelle went on and gave us what to do in the pause. Now, if you don't remember, go watch it online again. Well, then we heard from Ashley, who reminded us that recovery is an inside the hula hoop job. She planted more seeds and talked about changing our minds, changing the way we think. I had a thinking problem. And then not everything we think is the truth. Hence the reason I have been known to tell my sponsees early in sobriety, stop doing what you're not qualified to do, think. Because I certainly wasn't qualified to do that early. I'm still not sure I am either. But she said, we think, we feel, we act. Ashley said, if you don't like the way you feel and the things you do, well, it starts with changing the way you think. And she gave us ways on how to change our thinking so we can make new paths with new thoughts. And these all work together. So tonight, I'm going to talk about what we do, our actions. My car used to automatically pull into the bar every night on the way home. For the proverbial, I'm only going to have a few. Yeah, like that ever happened. As Ashley mentioned, though, I needed to make new paths so that I didn't automatically pull into the bar. We are responsible for our own actions. Yet, this was not easy. Matthew 7:13-14 says, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it, but small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life. I was so used to choosing the broad road and the wrong path that was the familiar one. My actions kept repeating themselves, and the consequences of those actions, well, they were getting worse. It was a vicious cycle. I would think wrong, then feel wrong, so I would act wrong. Not sure which was always first either. It's kind of like, Ashley has a lot of chickens, right? Bunch of chickens. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, yeah, but we need the chicken to lay the egg, but the chicken came from an egg. So if Ashley tends a lot of chickens, does that make her a chicken tender? I had to go with the stupid jokes. I stole that one from John, though, so sorry about that. But my point is, it doesn't matter what comes first. Sometimes I would start in the middle. We think, we feel, we act. Sometimes I would do it backwards. But once I got on that merry-go-round, it was a vicious cycle around and around and around. Now, I didn't want to keep doing or acting this way. The Apostle Paul said it this way in Romans 7:19. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. So here is my seed, the seed that I want to plant in you tonight. I am responsible for my actions, for those are within my hula hoop. Our bad actions, they do affect people. All of those around me suffered from my poor actions before recovery. Now, it doesn't matter if your poor actions are from chemical dependency, codependency, sexual integrity, anger, or whatever. Our poor actions affect everyone we come in contact with. Now, I remember when I started to take some positive action for my recovery. Not like I was thoroughly following this path or anything, but I had made a beginning. Some seeds had been planted. I got into an argument with my wife, and I'm sure it was for something that she found on my cell phone that should not have been there. And I got mad, and I left the house. Now, the old me, I would have headed straight to the bar and drank at it. This time, though, some recovery seeds had started to sprout, and I took a different action. Now, I may have been early in sobriety, but I went to a meeting. During that meeting, I realized I had been wrong. To me, this was a huge turning point in my recovery as I had taken a different action. Our actions are important. If I didn't change my actions, my results definitely would not have changed. These are little victories, and take the little victories as they come. I need to feed and work a newfound soil and a new way of doing things. The soil needs to be worked for seeds to grow properly. Earlier when Ashley read, "What is Choose Recovery?" and she read that if you want your recovery to be permanent, growing, and joy-filled, well, that sounds good, doesn't it? Well, growing in our recovery, it's like growing plants. And we have to prepare the soil. Jesus told us a parable about this in Mark chapter 4, verses 3 to 8. He said, "Listen, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants, so that they did not bear grain. Still other seed fell on good soil. It came up, grew, and produced a crop, some multiplying 30, some 60, some 100 times." So let me explain how I feel this verse is appropriate. We see this lived out in recovery all the time. A lot of seeds get scattered all over. The first part, well, those are people that come to recovery and aren't convinced that they need to be here, and they never come back. That's like the seed that was scattered along the path and eaten right away. The second group, well, they come, and while they admit they may belong here, they don't take the action of working a program of recovery at all, and then they go back out, a relapse. The third group, well, they stick around for a bit, and then that country song comes in reverse. They get the job back, they get the car back, they get the wife back. Life gets good, and what happens? They get complacent. Worldly clamors, that's the thorns, come in and choke their recovery. But the good soil, the ones who take the action, thoroughly follow this path and continue to do so, well, they grow roots and they produce a crop. So my wife recently bought and started this hydroponic garden. And now this has everything from kale and cauliflower to dill and mint. Okay, I may still be a little bit sick because I look at that thing and I keep thinking what strains of weed I would have planted in the old days. Keep coming back, right? But, my point is, this has the soil tilled. The soil is all prepared. Okay, there might be some poop, fertilizer in the soil. That would be our past experiences. We grow from those. You take care of what you plant so that it grows and develops roots. Our recovery is like this. When we take the action to change what we do, how we think and how we feel, well, this way of life becomes the normal way. The original 1940 preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous says, by often repeating these acts, they become habitual, and the help rendered becomes natural to us. We are the soil. We are the soil. And we need to prepare the soil, meaning we have to take action in order for the soil to become good soil. Now, I'm an example of what happens if you don't prepare the soil. I relapsed in my 40s. I never really took the necessary actions and got complacent as well. Our actions are important. If not, weeds, those thorns, they crop in and choke our recovery. So I want to tell you, Jesus often gave actions. When he called his disciples in Matthew 4:19, he said, follow me and I will make you. Follow me is an action. When he healed the demon-possessed man in Mark 5, after that he told him, go to the Decapolis and tell him what I've done for you. It's an action. The woman caught in adultery, he told her, get up, go, and sin no more. An action. When he healed the man at the pool of Bethesda in John chapter 5, he told him to pick up your mat and walk. Another action. We need to take action. So I have a friend in recovery, and he tells the story of an old timer that used to come up at meetings and poke him in the chest and say, no change, no change. Meaning, if we don't take the action to change, if we aren't working the soil, I'm not going to be any different. So I want to get a little practical here for the rest of our time left and ask the question, how can I change the way I act? How can I change the way I act? I don't know about you, but I needed clear-cut directions on what to do in order to effect a change. What actions do we need in order to get the desired results? How do we work the soil? So I want to give you 5 ways to work the soil, 5 ways that are going to help us on our journey. And the first one is pray. Pray. Oh, what do you know? Praying was also one of the actions in Rochelle and Ashley's lessons, so it must be pretty important. I need to get connected to God and work on my relationship with him. We do that through prayer. One of the first parts of my prayers is thanking God for what he's already done in my life. That I'm a cogpout, child of God, person of worth, reminding me that I'm one of his special masterpieces. There's a Bible verse that says, ask and it shall be given. Well, asking is prayer. So we also ask God for our needs. Things like, keep me sober. Let me do your will, not mine. Lord, lead and guide me. And then we ask for our family and our friends' needs. And the next thing we can do, number 2, is work the program of recovery. For me, I have to engage in all aspects, not just some of the program. I had to be willing to go to any lengths for sobriety. I couldn't do what I call the cafeteria style of recovery, where I would pick and choose the parts I was going to do. I don't know what part changes me, so I have to do it all. I need to thoroughly work the soil regularly, or weeds, those thorns, crop up. Now, if you're new, well, you can start small. Come to one of the small groups after this large group. You're already here. I need these small groups. I need to hear how others are recovering, and I also need to hear how others are struggling. It's here, too, that I began to develop healthy relationships with others. I can't do this alone, and small groups is one way to surround yourself with healthy people that act the way you want to be. It's in these small groups that you'll find a sponsor if you don't have one. And I need a sponsor to help guide me through the process of recovery. Someone who's gone through this before and has had some ongoing success in their own recovery. Now, I still need to attend traditional recovery meetings regularly. Monday and Friday nights for Choose Recovery is not enough for me. Early, I was typically going to 6 or more meetings a week. Well, the next action we can take is service work. What do we say about service? Do it. Just do it. Service work is very important. Now, whether that's helping set up before a meeting, helping to clean up after, maybe chairing a meeting. Home group is a really good way to get started doing some service work as well. I was told that I am my biggest problem. And the best way to get me out of me is to do service work, working with others. Service work needs to go outside of these walls. You know, it's not enough for what we do the 1 hour we're in here, but we have to carry it, and it's what we do the other 23 hours of the day. You know, we praise Jesus by how we act when we leave here. The rooms are our training ground. The world is where we live this out. Integrity, I was told, is doing the right thing when no one is watching. So pick up a piece of garbage when you're pumping gas and throw it out. I had already written this, and I went to the gas station yesterday, and there was a cup there, so I had to pick it up and throw it out. I was tempted to not do it. The other thing, put the shopping cart away at the grocery store. Yeah, all the way to the shopping cart corral. Yeah, I know. Nobody else does it. But we're called to hire, aren't we? So put somebody else's shopping cart away as well. The fourth thing we can do is practice the pause. You know, prevent another ugly situation or event. This again was mentioned by Rochelle and Ashley in their lessons in this series. When we intentionally pause, well, that is an action so that we can see the choices and we have an opportunity to make the right choice and not just react. Again, by often doing this, we begin to make the right choices on a regular basis, and they become natural. And the next thing we can do is read the Bible. Choose Recovery is a faith-based, Christ-centered recovery program. So read your Bible. Okay, I used to think that the Bible, you know, written thousands of years ago, couldn't possibly help me today. I was wrong, especially since I've begun my recovery journey. I have found so much inspiration, help, instruction, comfort, so much more in reading the Bible on a regular basis, then putting much of that into practice on a regular basis. In Joshua chapter 1, so this is in the Old Testament, Moses had freed the Israelites from bondage and slavery in Egypt, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Joshua was sort of Moses' apprentice. And right after Moses died, Joshua was now to lead the Israelites into the promised land. And God spoke to him. And here's what God said in Joshua 1, verse 8. So keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. First thing here it says is keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meaning I should be reading the Bible regularly. That will keep it on my lips, speaking what it tells me to do. So I've heard the synonym, or acronym, for the Bible as basic instructions before leaving earth. Well, then it says meditate on it day and night. And the definition of meditate is think deeply or focus one's mind for a period of time. Day and night says I should be doing this more than just in the morning. Okay, I need to add that at night myself. Then the next line fits in with our lesson tonight. So that you may be careful to do everything written in it. To do, well, that's our action. It's working the soil. Then a promise from God. I like promises. God said you will be prosperous and successful if you do these things. The things we can change are actions. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says he may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish, constructive, and here's our word, action. Vital means absolutely necessary. We need to take the action, working the soil, and we need to continue to take action. Again, working the soil regularly in order for our sobriety to be permanent, growing, and joy-filled. So I went to the Old Testament, so now here's a little bit of the New Testament. The book of James has 2 verses that I want to share with you tonight. First one, James 1:22, says, "But be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourself." So be doers of the word, meaning take the actions that are in the Bible. Then just 1 chapter later, James reminds us again, faith without works is dead, meaning we have to continue to take the action. So let me summarize a little bit here, and let's go back to the question I asked a little bit ago. How can I change the way I act? How can we change the way we act? By working the soil, taking those 5 actions that we just went through. We can pray, work the program of recovery, do some service work, practice the pause, preventing another ugly situation or event, and read the Bible. I promise, good things will come to pass when we do these things. Working the soil, the seeds of recovery will grow and blossom into a new life. Doing these 5 actions are preparing the soil, and we become planted, growing deep roots. Now, as the band makes their way back in here, I love this verse about planting from Psalm 92, verses 12 and 13. It says, "The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar of Lebanon, planted in the house of the Lord. They will flourish in the courts of our God." To me, this psalm sounds firm with deep roots, planted in the house of the Lord. To flourish is a good thing. It means to thrive, that we're thriving if we're planted in the house of the Lord. So this is a process, and it does take time. Don't get discouraged. You know, planting a seed, the crop does not grow overnight. Keep at it. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up." So in a few moments, we're going to open the altar up here and have some time where you can come up here and pray while we sing one more song. Now, if you're joining us online, make where you are a place of prayer as well. I want to encourage you, no matter where you are on the scale of your recovery, whether you're brand new or whether you've been around a while, we all need to do these things. Take the actions within our hula hoop. Work the soil so that our recovery grows deep roots and blossoms. Don't become weary. The verse says at the proper time. Whatever season we're in right now, that proper time will come and we will be able to reap a harvest. Well, the harvest, those are some of the promises of recovery. Things like peace, serenity, freedom. Don't give up. So I wrote this lesson actually last week, and I did revisions on it Tuesday. And Wednesday morning, one of my devotionals had this, and I just want to share it with you real quick. A meditation for the day said, "God is always ready to pour his blessings into our hearts in generous measure. But like the seed sowing, the ground must be prepared before the seed is dropped in. It is our task to prepare the soil. It is God's to drop the seed. This preparation of the soil means many days of right living, choosing the right and avoiding the wrong. As you go along, each day you are better prepared for God's planting until you reach the time of harvest. Then you share the harvest with God, the harvest of a useful and more abundant life." Please stand and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are so grateful and thankful for your words that encourage us, to help us with tilling the soil and making it good soil so that the seeds that you plant will grow strong and sturdy and deep roots and help us in our recovery journey. We ask all this in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen. The altar is open.